Hello, Hockey World. Sorry for being late today. We had a little bit of a hangover from last night, obviously, after our 5+ hour show yesterday.
I don't think I've slept better than I did last night. It's weird. All I did was talk for 5 hours, which is not exactly.
No, I mean we have a great job, but yeah.
You do that anyhow. I mean, whether we're on the air or not.
It was a tough one though. I mean, let's not. It was. I mean, as far as things to talk about, I was amazed. I mean, I actually got so many compliments that we were the most entertaining show out there because we at least were having fun with it.
That's good. All right. Well, at least
do. So I got tons of compliments. I really appreciate you guys.
Well,
you guys working so hard.
I did like that photo that somebody posted on Twitter.
The photo was great.
The John Lennon one?
The John Lennon post.
Hats off. That was good. It's not the first. I mean, my whole life I've gotten that. John Lennon thing. I mean, I have a book right over. I mean, I like actually John Lennon's something I've idolized. I've got books of his. I've got all kinds of stuff.
Too. I'm a very big Beatles fan.
Yeah.
I have to say that we have to give acknowledgement to our friend Josh Rimmer because he was. David Schultz, I believe, is in the Globe and Mail, wrote a story about TSN's coverage of the trade deadline, and there was a couple paragraphs about Josh.
Really?
Yeah, getting I think Michael Bodker on the phone.
Yeah, he's very good. Josh is great at getting people on the phone.
He is.
That's his strength. No, I was happy for him. He did. I mean, he was texting me. I got one text from Josh the entire time he was at TN that just said, "This sucks." Period. Because that's how hard it was.
Yeah, for a producer, yesterday was a tough day.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about that tomorrow because my blog tomorrow is about that, about ways we can fix that. But last night I was up, late, and I was happy not to be looking for rumors anymore, and and not talking to people. So I just started. I would actually do some hockey coverage. So I wrote up a story about the NHL. So we'll talk about that today. About the Eastern Conference because I had to prove. Russ and I had a little debate at the end of last show about the chances of the Flyers making the playoffs. So I had to prove them wrong that they do exist. So I did that successfully, and we'll discuss that today.
I think somebody has the HockeyBuzz browser open because I keep hearing this click sound.
That's me. Okay. I have to have it open, but let me just I can mute that too. I can do that. There we go. It's gone, right?
Well, it happens like once every 20 seconds.
Yeah. Hey George. Thanks. I do have a Sherlock Holmes thing going on today. I didn't realize that. This is my just ran back from the orthodontist with my daughter look.
That's the Phil Collins from the Abacab cover.
Right.
A little bit. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Ha ha.
That's Mama.
Mama, sorry. It's funny you say Phil Collins. My wife was listening to Phil Collins yesterday. Just a ton of Phil Collins for some reason last night.
Any particular album?
She just did it. We have the Amazon, the Amazon Echo.
She's up for the new tour.
You can just say play Phil Collins, and it'll play Phil Collins songs.
Well, let me just one brief thing, then we'll start.
Yeah.
Because Russ and I talked about this before. Phil Collins, he's coming out of retirement. He's going to tour now, and along with that, he is re-releasing his albums on. I think they're being digitally remastered, and he's redoing the photographs of the album covers.
Oh, cool.
So it's Phil Collins at age 62.
Interesting.
Instead of the Phil Collins, the face value of the young Phil Collins from 1980, right? And it's so disturbing.
Really?
Not that Phil Collins is an ugly guy, but it's like.
Well, he's an old guy, I mean, give him, he's been through a heck of a lot too.
You remember
then change the title to Hello, I Must Be Aging. I mean, something else.
Right. I mean, it's basically the picture of face value, the straight on picture of him. And, it's a younger-looking Phil Collins not with the beard anymore, with the bald head, and now it's basically this, he looks like the alien from one of the old Star Trek episodes, like the one, the Corbomite maneuver or one of those. It's really bizarre. And I love him. He's great. He's one of the best drummers of all time. Mm-hmm. But it's just, keep the original cover, please.
Insanely talented guy.
Phil should take a page out of, every media person's one media photo that they have that they like, and they basically use that photo for their whole career. You can go look at some of the great writers out there.
That's really true. It's really funny.
and the picture is like 25, 30 years old.
Right. That's like my photo on Twitter right now is it's the only existing picture of me smiling, and of course it's
only existing picture of you smiling.
Of course it's with me with my arm around Sarah McLachlan. So of course I'm smiling.
Of course you're smiling.
Yes. Okay.
That's really funny. Yeah, my Twitter. I'm thinking of changing mine from this which I have now, which is this.
Right.
To where this I guess it was actually.
Right. Yeah. You
But,
should put your face on there. You're a public.
No one really wants to see my face.
Or at least you said it.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so this is really what I should do. We all know this. Come on, before we start the show, this is what I should be doing. No, not that. Well, that's an idea. Could just turn my camera off. That would work.
Whatever.
I didn't mean to do that, but no, this is more of what I was thinking along the lines of this is what I like to do. I want to try this one. Is it this one? I think it's this one. Hold on, here it comes. All right, so let me see if this is it or not. I think so. Should come up any second now. You should see something interesting. This is great TV, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, nothing, huh? All right, how about this?
That's what DirecTV used to look like for me.
This is the one. This is what I want to do.
The Green Lantern.
This I like. This to me. Yeah, this is what I should have done instead of it could have been anonymous then forever.
Yeah, the thermal image.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty weird. My chair behind me comes out as pink.
But if you just stayed anonymous, somebody would have like texture mapped that and made a face for you.
Yeah. I kind of look like Mario right now from like the Mario Brothers thing with my hat.
Yeah, you do.
Anyway, let's move on. Not that this isn't enthralling. Sorry, it's been let me get back to my normal self here.
Yes, you look much better there.
There we go. The reveal. Okay, let's start the show. It is the 1st of March. March 1st. March 1st is a sentence, I guess. March 1st, think later. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, March 1st, 2015, 16, 17, 18, 20, 16. We'll go with.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am still Eklund from HockeyBuzz.com. And you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you usually for just an hour, Monday through Friday, in the afternoon at some point, usually around 1 o'clock. But today, we're going a little bit later because of all kinds of stuff that happened. But we do want to talk hockey, and first of all, I want to thank you. Yesterday was the most watched podcast we've ever done. We really appreciate that. Lots of you out there watching it on YouTube and live. And it's interesting because the live thing, the YouTube thing actually doesn't count all the live views as well, I've heard. So there's a whole bunch of different things there. So several, probably tens of thousands of you watched it, and we really appreciate that because it was really nice of you all to watch it, and we had fun with it, and it was a challenge. I've got all kinds of remnants. Like I've got the playing cards here still left from yesterday, and we got through it though, and because Mike can talk the brass monkey off of a thing. Anyway,
my throat was hurting at the end of 5 hours.
Yeah, and like you said, Mike, I mean, I always sleep well after the trade deadline. There is an incredible sense of like after the trade deadline, no matter how hard it is, no matter how slow it is, it's just a sense of I don't have to take my phone with me when I go to the bathroom anymore. Like I'm allowed to just be and exist and just walk around the house and go outside and play ping pong or do whatever,
The ironic thing was last night because it was a big day for the Leafs because they called up William Nylander and 3 other of their rookies, and it was their debut. And a friend of mine up in Toronto said, the person that they were going to the game with had backed out, and did I want to go? And I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to get off the webcast, get on the QEW, get up there before 7:30. I mean, I'd probably fall asleep at the wheel, so I said thanks, but no thanks. It was just too much. So, yeah. But I got a chance to watch, and I struggled to get through the game because the game wasn't that enthralling. But
yeah, no, the games were. I watched a good game last night though. Actually, the Flyers game was a good game last night. I watched that. The Calgary Flames actually looked like the Calgary Flames of old last night a little bit with their comeback.
Yeah, in the third period, but for the second period, they were completely asleep.
Yeah, they were.
Jonas Hiller again. I don't know why anybody would be playing Jonas Hiller. He's not an NHL goalie anymore.
Well, yeah. The question is now because one trade that happened after we logged off yesterday was the David Jones for Nicholas Backstrom deal between Minnesota and Calgary. And Nicholas Backstrom is healthy. It's just he hasn't played the entire year.
Right.
So it's a question now whether, are they actually going to put him in the lineup? They have Ordio and they have Hiller. Are they actually going to put Backstrom in the lineup?
I guess it doesn't hurt to give him a shot.
Sure, why not?
I mean, at this point, you're out of the playoffs. See what you got. Maybe you have something there moving forward. He's signed for next year, right?
No, he's a free agent.
Oh, he's a free agent. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure about that. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this could just be a paper transaction. They might not even. But we'll see.
He had to waive his no move clause to allow the deal to happen.
Right.
Yeah, that was interesting, and it's something. I mean, this is not the first time Minnesota's tried to move him.
No.
So
we talked about him a few days ago, but we didn't know if he'd be healthy enough to be able to be moved.
yeah, but the fact that they let this happen, that he let this happen, says something. So I'm sure. My guess is Calgary said we're going to give you some games. That's what I would think.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and why wouldn't they right now, right? I mean, that makes sense. So let's get into what I did last night. After the game, after everything was said and done, I sat down and I started going through the schedule because Russ and I had this argument at the end of the show, and it's continued throughout the day today on Twitter. Not on Twitter, just on our own text messaging. And he thinks the Flyers are out of it. There's no way, and Mike kind of agrees with him. The Flyers are out of it for sure. There's no way they can make it.
Well, okay, here's my point of view. I mean, they're 3 points behind Pittsburgh. Both Pittsburgh and them won last night. Pittsburgh's got a game in hand.
No, not anymore. They're even.
But
they still have a game in hand.
Do they still? Okay, I thought they were even now. Okay.
No, they still have a game in hand. They both played last night. They both won.
Right.
Oh, that's right. They did both play. You're right.
I think it's more plausible for Philadelphia to catch a Boston or a Detroit from the Atlantic than they would against to catch Pittsburgh. Not because of the game in hand, but because I just think Pittsburgh is in a better place than those teams are. Detroit didn't add at the deadline. Boston added Lyles and Stempniak, but I still think I think they're a good enough team to make it. But the age on their defense and some of the things that they've gone through this year, they're not as consistent of a team as they used to be. And the thing is, Philadelphia, Voracek is out for 2 weeks. If they
that's an issue for sure. Braden Sheno has absolutely, beyond last night where he had a killer game for him, 9 shots.
He played great, but I've been covering them all year, and they've been up and down all year. If they win 3 in a row, they lose 3 in a row. If they win 5 in a row, they lose 3 of 5.
No, you're right.
They're still not in position. Now, it doesn't mean they can't, but if you were telling me, do I think they're going to make it or not, I'm still going to say no. Nothing's impossible, but it's not plausible because, again, Pittsburgh has now fixed themselves temporarily enough to score a lot of goals. And like last night, whether it's Arizona or not, they scored 6 goals. No,
and they looked very good doing so. You're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, so we talked about the schedules, and we started going through them last night, who has a harder schedule. So I wanted to really get into that. So let's get into that now.
Yeah.
Here's basically the gist of the race. In my opinion, there's 5 teams fighting for 4 spots, right? There are, and that I think is pretty safe to say. I think even though really the Red Wings are only 3 points behind the Panthers and the Lightning for the lead in that division, they only have 19 games left, and the Panthers and Lightning have like 21 games left. So there's more or less that 3 points could turn into 5 or 7. So I'm going to say, and I think we all kind of believe the Panthers and Lightning are going to make the playoffs. Like they both have played like a playoff team all year. I mean, the Lightning hasn't, but the Lightning's picked it up lately. They should be a playoff team. They're one of the best teams. And then the other division, you have 2 teams that are well out in front as well. Of course, the Capitals are starting to lap everybody. They've got 94 points. It's 14 more points than the Rangers, who are in second place with 80. So, and then you fall off a little bit, to the Islanders at 73. So to me, this is a battle between Detroit, Boston, the Islanders, Pittsburgh, and Philly, which is a 6-point spread between those 5 teams from the top to the bottom. And the top teams who have 75 and 74 points have played only have 19 games left, where the Islanders, Penguins, and Flyers all have 22, 21, 20 games left respectively. So it does get tighter even still. So this whole thing is very tight. So that is the schedule. But then I wanted to look at the schedule, and I wanted to see the strength of schedule. And this is where I start to make my argument. Okay, Boston has by far the hardest schedule of these 5 teams to go. It's not even close. They, I mean, if you were just to base it on the points, the average point total of the teams they're playing, Boston plays teams that are averaging 73.8 points, and then it goes down to Pittsburgh at 72.9, the Islanders at 70.7, the Flyers at 69.3, and the Red Wings at 65.8. So the Red Wings have right now at the top and have the easiest schedule left. So I'm kind of putting the Red Wings in. I mean, they're at the top of this, even though they only have 19 games left. They have a really ridiculously easy schedule left. Yeah. The advantage of playing only 19 games is that this is the time of year that teams are hurt and people are tired. I mean, so the reality of that is, having 22 games left is great, but when you've got to play them in 34 days or whatever it is, that's not easy, right? So the games at hand are always I always find them a little bit misleading because of that fact, because they take their toll on teams slowly. So Pittsburgh, the second hardest schedule left. The Islanders and Flyers basically in the middle there. But I'm kind of putting Detroit in. So now it's 4 teams versus 3, because Detroit's schedule, I mean, it's so easy, and they really have. I mean, they couldn't ask for more. I mean, that's to their credit, because that means they've already played the hard part of the schedule. It's not like they have an easier schedule than everybody else. So they've already played the hard part of their schedule. 10 of their last 19 games are against non-playoff teams against Detroit. There are some. One other thing I wanted to mention, and then. So I think eliminating Detroit is a fair bet, because they play 4 of their next 6 games at home. They have 2 games left against the Leafs, Canadiens, Columbus, and the Flyers. So they have these, and then they also play the Jets and the Sabres. So they basically have an easy schedule on the way. And I think Detroit's a solid team.
Here's my big question for any of these teams that play the Leafs. Will the Leafs even see anybody starting goalie? I'm going to say no. I see every coach is going to put their backup in against the Leafs.
That is a great point, and something I took into account with this too, because also teams that play the Capitals and the Blackhawks towards the end of the season, that's also a different mode, because we see that now. They could be resting guys.
Well, the Leafs faced Vasilevsky last night, but I don't consider him the traditional backup. I mean, he's just better than some number one.
But he's still not Bishop.
And the Leafs are a problem. I mean, they could be a problem. They can be a spoiler. They got all these young players, and I mean, I know we don't want to say they're going to win games. They're not going to go 0-20 the rest of the way.
No, they're going to go 0-21. They'll probably go 4-17.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but that's still a game that everybody's looking at as a guaranteed win. So it's not.
Sure.
Right. Games are that way. So the reality is, the interesting thing about this is these 5 teams all play more games on the road left than they do at home, with the exception of the Flyers, who are dead even with 10 at home and 10 on the road. But the rest of them,
that's an advantage. That's an advantage for Boston, because Boston has one of the best road records in the league. So, I mean,
it's an advantage until you look at who's Boston's playing. I mean, they have a great road record, but they've yet to go to California. They're going to California next week. They're going to play those 3 teams. Those 3 teams are battling right now, and they're all in it. They're not. Next week, those 3 teams are going to have to win games. They're not going to be going easy. Then they go to Florida. Those 2 teams are battling.
Here's my
tough places to go.
Here's my argument against the Red Wings. Yeah, they right now, like, their next 2 games are back-to-back against the Blackhawks.
That's the hardest part of their schedule.
Right, and Columbus is not a good team, but Columbus always plays Detroit tough. So games that might be considered easy because the teams are lower down in the standings. I mean, there are some teams that are lower down in the standings, like Columbus, who in the last part of the year they always turn it on, and they've always played Detroit tough. The Rangers, that's a tough game. They go head-to-head against the Flyers. They play the Blue Jackets twice. Florida. I mean, this doesn't look like an easy schedule. Tampa Bay. Pittsburgh.
How's not an easy schedule? I mean, 10 of the 19 games they play are against teams that are in the playoffs right now.
Well, I mean, I'm just scanning through the schedule right now, and I'm seeing Florida, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Chicago twice, Columbus twice. That doesn't look easy.
Well, maybe it's not easy because the NHL is tough, but compared to the other teams, it's a friggin' walk in the park. I mean, they have, because let's go to the other teams. That's the reality of it is.
Well, so but wait. Before the walk in the park, I mean, Columbus all but tied up that Ranger game. If there was one more tick on the clock, they tied it up. I mean,
No, Columbus is a trap team for sure to everybody. They're a trap team. Detroit, though, the average point total of the teams that they're playing the rest of the way is 65.8. That's low. I mean, that's
That's bad. See, the thing is that might be misconstrued because they're playing Toronto twice, and Toronto has 52
True.
points. So that's 2
But
games
they're also
against.
playing Chicago twice. So I mean,
That's fair.
you can if you wipe those out, you got the extremes there. So I mean, because Chicago's got 83 points. So all right, but the 65.8 is relatively easy, and the fact that their 19 games are spread out, they don't have to kill themselves to finish this season. I mean, the worst thing I can find about Detroit is that they play 3 games in 4 nights to end the season. That might be tough, but
Right.
I think by then they'll be in. I think that they're going to be in, and I don't think it's going to matter. So, all right, but we're not if we're not willing to put Detroit up, then we could say, can Boston catch them? Because Detroit's going to make the playoffs unless Boston catches them. That's the bottom line. Like, Detroit is in 3rd place. It doesn't matter what these other teams do. Someone's got to make it, Detroit or Boston.
I don't think Boston's going to catch them. I think Boston's going to teeter on the edge, and they'll make it, but they're not going to catch them.
I mean, Boston has a pretty difficult March. I mean, they play like in the next 3 games at home. Calgary should be a win. The Blackhawks and the Capitals the next 2 games. Then they go to Florida, Panthers and Lightning. Then they come back Hurricanes, that should be a win. Islanders, and then they go west, and then they come and play the Rangers. Florida, Toronto, New Jersey at the end of the month. So up until the end of the month, that's a really tough month. But they
did add some personnel. And
They did, and you can see why. They had to do that.
Yeah, and for whatever reason this year, Stempniak's been a Ranger killer, so I would watch out for him in that game.
Here's the problem with the Bruins' schedule, though. Besides the fact that they do have to go on the road 3 times to the Western Conference, and that they haven't been particularly. They've been good on the road, but they haven't been particularly good against the West. That's been a problem with them all year, and for the last 2 years, actually, they've won 19 of 50 games that they played against the West. So, I mean, that's not exactly. It's not terrible, but it's not killing it, right? The big problem with them is this: when you look at these teams, these 5 teams that we're talking about, the Flyers play 7 games against the 4 of the other teams. The Islanders play 6, the Penguins play 7, Detroit plays 5, Boston plays 2. So Boston only has 2 games against these other teams, and that's a big problem for them because what's going to happen is every night they're going to be watching Philly play Pittsburgh, and there's going to be a 3-point game. They're going to be watching Pittsburgh play the Islanders, and there's going to be a 3-point game here. There's going to be all these 3-point games are happening. That's going to hurt Boston. I mean, that's going to really affect them because they only play Detroit once, and they play the Rangers, and that's it. So they don't, so for them, I think they're going to be tortured by the fact that the Flyers, Penguins, and Islanders are playing almost every other night, and they're going to when you go the way they're playing each other almost every other night. I mean, they each play each other 3 times the rest of the way. So,
I mean, sometimes that's a blessing. I mean, that you're not playing the teams that you're competing against. Sometimes,
it can be, but the 3-point game is the problem when those teams are playing each other, and when you're chasing a team and the teams that play each other have a 3-point game where somebody gets a lost point for losing in overtime, that kills you. That to me is where Boston has problems because, I mean, they could go out and they could do really well on the West Coast, although I think that's going to be tough. They could do really well in Florida, although I think that's going to be tough.
I mean, strength of schedule has to be factored in, obviously, but I also think that where the team is right now in terms of, their health and their momentum and.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, I'm basing this off of the fact that we said there's no way the Flyers can make it, and that's the argument here. I did not scale this so the Flyers would make it. These are all just flat out numbers. These are not and I still don't know if the Flyers are going to make it. I just think that if I was to handicap this, I think Boston's the team on the out, and I really do because of the way this plays out to them. They are 5 points ahead of the Flyers right now, but the Flyers have played 1 less game, so Flyers win that game 3 points. I can't imagine that 3 points can't be made up when I look at the Flyers schedule versus the Bruins schedule.
It's harder than you think, though. It is.
It is hard. I get it, but if for example, they've got to get points out of California, they've got to bring points back from that. That's not going to be easy.
No, it's not. But what I think we have to look at the situation with the Flyers in 2 weeks when Voracek comes back. If he comes back at 100%, and it's a lower body injury, so I mean you're probably not going to get Voracek back at 100%.
Well, that is true, Mike. But here's the other thing about Voracek this year: he hasn't been the big factor that you think.
Okay, but I knew you were going to say that, and I'm ready for that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is the first time he's out of the lineup. At least when he was in the lineup and not scoring, he was still a dangerous puck possession guy. He was still a dangerous guy going up the ice, and he'd still generate shots. Now he doesn't exist in the lineup. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, he was drawing cover. He was drawing the top checker.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's better with Voracek than without Voracek. You can't make an argument for that.
But in 2 weeks, if the Flyers are 3 points behind the Bruins, then they have a chance. But without Voracek, I would think that the Bruins are going to expand that lead. If it's 5 or 6, then I think the Flyers are done.
The problem is over the next 3 weeks, when you look at the schedule, that's when the Bruins have really hard. I mean, you pointed out yourself. I mean, the next 2 weeks are the toughest part of their schedule. And they've got Chicago and Washington, Florida and Tampa, and then the 3 California teams.
But here's the problem that you come up against, though. And I've seen this, and I've tried to, in the past, look at this and say, well, they're just like, if they were in baseball, they're like 2.5 back. But the problem is that for as long as those other teams keep winning, you're just chasing. And like last night was a perfect example. Now the Flyers, Calgary scores too late, makes that close, but Pittsburgh already won. And so like that's where it can play with you as the team that's chasing, because Pittsburgh now is probably going to have the lead in a lot of these games, even ones that they lose, because there'll be a few that they collapse and lose. But they're scoring a lot of goals, and that does put pressure on a team that's chasing them.
And that team, if they're scoreboard watching and all of a sudden they slip up and lose one game, that's emotion crushing. Because there's no
question about that.
Yeah.
And you're right. And there have been a lot of games like that for the Flyers this year. They have lost at least 3 or 4 games I can think of within the last minute. One being to Toronto, not too long ago, that they lost, with a few seconds left in the game, where they lost any points at all. But this Flyers team has been better at getting the 1 points game. They've been getting better. I mean, they've gone to overtime more than any team in the NHL, I believe.
I believe that's true.
With Vancouver, I think 20 times they've been to overtime, 21 times or whatever. So you can look at that a bunch of ways. Last year they weren't even getting the 1 point. You could also look at it the way that they've lost 11 times in overtime, or 12 times in overtime, or whatever. So there's that too. I mean, to me, I just can't help but think that it is the next 2. The next 2 weeks are also key for the Islanders, because the Islanders play 8 of their next 10 games on the road, which is a crazy thing to happen this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play 8 of their last 10 games at home. It's just kind of crazy. So they end up, it's kind of crazy. So or maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah, I am. That is right, but they do have more games on the road. If you listen
to the rhetoric, the Islanders are more happy on the road than they are at home. So.
But they played better at home.
I know.
On the road. I mean, they're under 500 on the road. So, I mean, they play better. I thought that too as I looked it up, and I wanted to see, because I feels like the Islanders they've been better on the road, right?
Here's something I expect the Islanders to do down the stretch: play Greiss a little bit more, and that actually could help him, because he's been very effective this year, and so I think that's something they haven't had in the past.
Right, and I think Greiss is in a lock that has really struggled lately. So that's something, because the lock has to be good. Greiss has the ability. They have 2 good goalies, which is an advantage.
Like in the past, they'd be using Nielsen. They'd be using like a guy like Dubowitz. They'd be, and all these guys. I mean, although Dubowitz is the last one to make the playoffs for them, but you get the idea. It's usually a struggle. Not the last one to make the playoffs, but the last one of a backup nature that got them in the playoffs once. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, the interesting thing is they, like the Penguins, have to play 16 games in March. So that's 16 games in 31 days.
And they play the Rangers twice. They play the Penguins twice. They play the Flyers twice. So
they're a young team, though. That's the good thing for the Islanders. I don't expect their legs to burn out. I think the coach is going to be under tremendous pressure, but I think the age of the team is a good thing for them. And if they're actually working in Ryan Pulock now, like I hope they are, then that's a big deal for them. That's actually better than any deadline deal they could get if they work in Pulock. Right.
No, and that is good. I mean, I like the Islanders team. I think that I think they're very solid. I think they could be a real problem. I do think the Islanders are going to make it. I think the Islanders are going to finish in 3rd. I do. I think that's where third. Sorry, 3rd, of course. And I do think that they'll get there. Even though they have the schedule that way it is. But the Islanders, they are. I can't help but think that they won't be there. But check this out, okay? When you just said that the Flyers, Islanders, and Penguins each play each other 3 times, so that is going to be a fun stretch, right? So, but if we look at the last 5 games these teams have played against each other in the standings, I'll show you this, okay? So I highlighted it here. It's from my blog. The Islanders are 7-3 for 14 points. The Flyers are 6-2-2 for 14 points. The Penguins are 2-6-2 for 4 points. And those 2 wins came in each of the last time they played the Flyers and the Islanders.
And that should be an indicator because the Penguins were crap for the first half of the season.
But I'm not going to say just because they won the last game against those 2 teams
No. But I'm saying that's
a change. I mean, they played against the Flyers. Everyone who watched the Flyers-Penguins last game, that arena was chanting because the Penguins hadn't won at home forever against the Flyers. I mean, it was a big win, a big victory, and all that stuff. At the end of the game, it was a 4-3 victory, and it wasn't like anything crazy.
But things have changed there now, at least temporarily.
Yes.
Right. That is a different team now. It is not the team of the first half. It is not the team of I can't even remember the damn name of the coach.
It's a different team.
Well, Mike Sullivan. Not Mike Sullivan.
Mike Johnston. Yeah, it's now a Mike Sullivan team instead of a Mike Johnston team. They have Bailey. Right. They have Hagelin. I mean, they're a different team, and now they have Malkin back. So
it's a different team. I do agree with you, but at the end of the day, they aren't going to. That team, the next game they play against the Islanders and Flyers are going to be hugely important to them because if they come out and win again, okay, then you can say they're a different team. But right now, they've only won once against each of those teams, and the memories of all those of the 10 other losses before that are very much in their head. So
I just think they're infused with confidence right now, and I think that won't matter that they lost the previous games. They remember winning the last game,
right.
and they're on a roll right now. And like Russ said, even though it was 6 goals against Arizona and Louis Domingue, they scored 6 goals. They're generating offense, and it wasn't Crosby scoring the goals. He had 3 assists, but Hornquist was scoring.
Right.
Other players were scoring.
And now I'm a big fan of the Hagelin pickup. I think it filled their lines out nicely. I really think that I've said that many times, and I'm a big fan of Crosby's. I think that Crosby's picked it up too. And the Penguins have one big advantage over the other teams is the travel left for the rest of the season for the Penguins. Even though they play 16 games in 31 days in March, they do not travel any further than Ottawa. They don't leave the Eastern time zone for the rest of the season.
Other than a West Coast swing, I don't think travel is really that big of a deal.
I think this time of year it matters more than you think. I mean, this time of year I really think it does.
I could be wrong. I don't think it does. I could be wrong, though.
Only 3 opponents outside of the Metro in 21 games. So they play 18 games against the Metro division the rest of the way. That should be a good thing because they control their own fate. But over the last 2 years, there's 17, 26, and 6 versus the Metro. It's not just the Islanders and the Flyers. They have really had trouble with everybody in the Metro. So when you look at it, that's they've got to play everybody in the Metro, and that's going to be tough. I mean, they have a lot. I mean, their schedule is really like clockwork. I mean, they play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday the rest of the year. You can just mark your clock by it. There's like 2 days that they don't play on Tuesday and Thursday. And they only have 1 game on a Friday. They don't play on any Mondays or Wednesdays. They're completely, to me, that's going to be fun to watch. I mean, so to me, the Penguins have that advantage, but it's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. Now the Flyers, I've been talking them up, but I'll tell you one thing: them playing against Columbus twice is not an advantage to them. This is a team that we've talked about. Columbus is 6-1 against the Flyers since last year, and the Flyers' only win was like a miraculous win, like probably one of the best comebacks they've had. I don't know if you guys remember this game or not, but the Claude Giroux backhanded goal from the corner, crazy. That was the only time the Flyers have beaten Columbus in the last 2 years. So that to me is an issue. I mean, you're going to see a lot. Columbus is this weekend. I think it's Saturday, is it? Yeah, it's Saturday night. I mean, the Flyers play Edmonton tomorrow, so that should be a win, you would think. But then they play Columbus on Saturday. Saturday's game could be a huge game for them.
You would think it would be a win after. I mean, Edmonton's playing in Buffalo tonight, and I think we should talk about that one because
we will.
Yeah, but it's second of back-to-back games against a team like Edmonton who's been struggling. You would think that that's a victory, but you never know. I mean,
no, you do never know.
This is the one thing, and I mean, I remember you bringing this up last year, and this is the thing you have to be concerned about if you're looking for the Flyers to make a playoff run. When they play easy teams, they lose. When they play tough teams, they win.
And Philadelphia has an Last year they were terrible. This year they've gotten better. They've started like the last 3 games they beat 3 teams they should beat. So now they have 2 more games against teams they should beat at home. They're in the middle of a 16.
Last night there was no Chris Russell.
Yeah, and they struggled, and the Flyers dominated most of the game, but they still almost blew it. I mean, they could have easily blown the game last night. There's no question about that. The consistency's not there. Neuwirth apparently has taken over the reins now as the goalie for the rest of the year. It seems like he's their starter to win or lose with, which is an interesting move, because Mason is the higher paid goalie, and Mason has one more year left on his contract. It is only one more year, so that is kind of so it's not. This isn't like a disaster. Like he's got 5 more years at $6 million, but got one more year left. But Neuwirth has really, the Flyers are a different team in front of Neuwirth than they are in front of Mason. I think that's what it comes down to.
I agree. What you should look at is the stat of Neuwirth versus the Penguins, because his rebound control is still not great. Everything else about his game is, and they have a lot of guys that set up around the goalie and don't ever leave. And I kind of wonder what his. I'm going to look up his record if I can against.
You look that up because we know Mason has a very good record, obviously, against the Penguins. Most of those wins you're looking at were Mason.
The one thing I'd be curious about with Mason is because I was at the game on the 20th where he was playing against Toronto.
Yeah.
And got injured, and now they said it was cramps. Maybe they're going more with Neuwirth because I don't know if it was cramps or not. You know how teams.
It was. He was doubled over. He was.
Yeah, but you know how teams keep injuries close to the vest.
Well, that's true. It could be a sports hernia or something if that's what you're getting at. But
right, exactly. So if that's the case, then they're forced to go with Neuwirth. And not that that's a bad thing because Neuwirth has played extremely well. But if they have to play him and Mason is dealing with some injury difficulty, that's another thing. Because I honestly think of the two, Mason is the better of the two goaltenders. And I know that we heard yesterday some rumor out there, and I can't attest to the validity of it, that there was talk about the Flyers trading one of their goalies. Now maybe that obviously that didn't happen before the deadline, but if that happens during the summer,
it's not going to happen. It's rhetoric. It's not going to happen.
Because the Flyers have really worked hard to have two goalies that they like.
They signed Neuwirth for 2 years for a reason.
Yeah, and Neuwirth is very close friends with Voracek too, and that's why one of the reasons Neuwirth came here. I think. It's possible that Mason, doesn't get re-signed. We could see Mason's if Neuwirth just completely took over the reins and became the absolute starter. Mason is on his UFA year next year, so there's a possibility that next year Mason gets
maybe at the deadline, but not during the summer.
Right.
Unless they get a goaltender back in the deal. That's all I'm saying.
They're not going to risk it. I don't think Hextall will risk it. Here's the funny thing. Just like yesterday when I said when they weren't making a deal at the deadline. Hextall has a particular plan. He is sticking to it. And since nothing fit in yesterday, he didn't do anything.
Where to get in, where to get out. If only this.
Sorry, there's a monster in Russ's room. You got to get in to get out. You know that, right? Okay, so.
The pitfall of looking up stats while you're.
Oh, yeah, no, I know for sure. But believe me, it happens all the time here. So, but yeah, I think that. Neuwirth is to say that it will be interesting, and I think the Flyers will try this. I do think that Mason will play against Pittsburgh when the Flyers play the Pittsburgh Penguins, because Mason has had, if he's healthy, we'll know then, because Mason has had such a great record. I know Neuwirth lost the last game against the Penguins. Neuwirth is a smaller goalie, and he is small, and there are certain teams that like Malkin against Neuwirth is not a good fight. Mason is much better against the Penguins than almost any goalie. I would bet Mason has one of the best records in the NHL against the Penguins because the Flyers have such a great record against the Penguins, and most of those games have been Mason. And I know a couple of those times that the Flyers have lost, it was when Mason was hurt and Emery was in goal. So a couple in years past. So
you know what? He hasn't faced them this year. He hasn't faced them last year.
Okay. So it's kind of almost moot because. The thing about Neuwirth is not just that he's playing well, but it's that the team thinks he's good. The team in front of him is playing well because they think he's playing well, and that actually plays into it.
It's the Andrew Hammond effect.
It really is. It's very similar. And the Flyers' defense looks better with him in there.
In 13-14, he was 1-1 against them with a 4.08.
Okay, so I thought
Craig Anderson was the better of the two goaltenders last year, but once the momentum started to go with them, they were going to stick with him.
Right, and that might be where things are at right now, and I think that I think that's definitely where things are at right now. And we don't know what Mason's had a crazy year, not all of it's been his fault. But Mason in his history, the one scary thing, and I said this when they signed Neuwirth, is Mason's history has been he's been a very good goalie when there isn't a strong backup behind him.
Right.
And when you put a strong backup behind him, that's in Columbus. That's where he started to falter. In Philly, that's where he started to falter too at times. But when he had to play every game, when when Mason knew he was going to play the next 5 games, he's at his best.
I would play him against Pittsburgh, like you said, though. That would be my strategy.
Yeah, that's what I would do too. At least the first game against Pittsburgh. You got 3 games against the Penguins. Give him a shot. If you can create, something there, get inside the Penguins' head. They know they've had trouble against Mason. They did beat him the last time, I guess. I could have sworn Neuvirth played that game against the Penguins this year. Yeah, so
or at least it did show up in the ESPN game log, but no.
So this is how I think this plays out, and I want your opinions. Now that we've heard all the numbers, you've heard everything there is to know. I mean, I've done all this research, and I've done more math than I should. I want to know where you guys think this plays out. Now, because in my opinion, the battle here is the Islanders. The Islanders get third. The Islanders and the Red Wings get third place in each of their divisions. They're going to the playoffs. So it comes down to the Flyers, Penguins, and Bruins, right? And I think the Flyers and Penguins make it in. The question, I don't know what order they make it in. I think it's possible, that the Penguins the Penguins fall to 8th, the Flyers push to 7th. It's possible the Flyers fall in 8th and Penguins push to 7th.
It's not possible.
That is possible.
That is not possible. I'm telling you right now, if they make it,
they play each other 3 times. It's possible right there.
It's not possible.
Okay. Well, Russ, you've been very quiet considering you've been disproven today. So I want your opinion now. Tell me exactly why you think this is not possible.
You know when I'm disproven? When the Flyers are actually in playoff position for more than a day, which they haven't done yet.
Our job is to not procrastinate.
That's my job. I'm very good at it.
I'm really good at that too. Prognosticate. Our job is to prognosticate. You're looking ahead here.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with the premise because I think personally that Boston is going to finish in 3rd place in the Atlantic, and Detroit is the team that is more at risk of being in the wild card mix.
Okay.
I don't think that's possible. I will bet you anything you want on that one, Mike.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm telling you that I do not think will happen.
All right, I'll tell you this. A week ago on television, I was asked this exact question, and Flyers had something like 23 games, 24 games, and I basically said they'd have to go something like 19-5.
Right.
And I still stick to that. I mean, it really has to be that dominant. And I don't know. I don't really think they have that in them. They haven't shown me that all year. And now you're missing your second best player for 2 weeks. 2 weeks isn't an eternity, and 2 weeks, by the way, is your best case scenario. Could be longer.
So you said this a week ago, right?
I did.
Okay, so since you said this, they are 3-0. So now they've got to go 16-5. You're saying?
Yeah.
The Flyers have 20 games left. They're 29, 22, and 11. I think honestly they have to go probably 17-3 or 16-4. If they go 16-4, it's 91
points. 8
points
out, Mike. They're not. I mean, they're not.
Yeah, but you're basically.
You think the Bruins are going to go?
I think the Bruins will at least go 500
or something like that, or 15?
If the Bruins go 500, they're gonna. Right now, the Bruins have 63 games. They have 19 games left. If they go 9-9-1.
All right, let's say they go 9-9-1.
Okay. That's 19 points. That's 93 points.
93 points. All right, the Flyers are at 63 points. So the Flyers are at 67 points. Sorry, 69 points. Flyers are at 69 points. To get to 93 points, they would have to get 24 points. All right, so that means that's 12 wins, not 17.
And that's 12 wins. You're counting the other teams losing.
Well, we're saying the Bruins go 500, which I think is very possible. With their schedule left, the Bruins could go 500.
Yeah, but they could, but they're 11 games over 500 right now. So them going 500 is well below what they've done all season.
Yeah, but they have not played. They haven't been to California yet. I mean, this is all season they haven't played these games.
They haven't been to California yet, but they're 21-7-3 on the road. They may have the best road record in the league. I mean, most teams
that does count for something.
It does count for something, no question. But it also,
Pittsburgh is not going 500. They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
Right.
I mean, what I'm saying is for Philadelphia.
Bruins have 47% of their games at home. They have the second most games at home, so they aren't exact. I mean, you could argue that their home record is pretty terrible. They've got 47% of the games at home. For
Philadelphia to beat one of those teams out, I don't think they can depend on those teams going 500 because those teams have been 10, 11 games over 500 all year. For Philadelphia to make the playoffs, they're going to have to make a run like Ottawa did, which in 20 games they're going to have to go 17-3.
No, the Ottawa Senators were 12 points out. I mean, the Flyers have never been 12 points out. It's not. We're not looking at that.
But it's a different situation.
Yes.
And there's teams with oh no, I disagree. I mean, all right, continue. That's fine. We're allowed to disagree.
We'll find out in 4 or 5 weeks.
I know, but I think you guys are being irrational, and I think you're just fighting the hell of it.
I'll tell you why we're not being irrational. With these teams not being settled and still being in it and adding players, the Flyers didn't add anybody. They've lost players.
Right.
Everybody else added players.
That's true. That's true. I do, and Stepney. When you add players like Stepniak and Lyles, that it can make a difference. Stepniak's going to help. He's going to get your share of goals. I'm not denying that.
Adding Shane Prince is adding another player.
Everybody below the Flyers sold. The Flyers did nothing. Carolina.
Do you think the Penguins got better?
They did get better with Justin Schultz. I told you they would, because if nothing else, they will create more offense and they will just try and outscore everybody like we talked about.
Yeah, but I can argue. Did the Islanders get better?
I think they did with Shane Prince. I don't know how much they'll use him, but it's another set of fresh legs because he hasn't even played a half a season's worth of games. So if they just throw him in once in a while, he spells another player.
From every indication that's out there, the Islanders were not in the mix for anything. They were like the Ottawa Senators. The only thing they were looking for was a young guy that they could hold on to, and they weren't interested in rentals. They weren't. They apparently did put no interest in a guy like Parento. And so to me that sounds like a team that's budgeted out and that they're interested in maybe promoting some of their young guys.
And that's the thing. Let's say Pulak goes in and Straight goes out. They've gotten a lot better in my eyes.
Sure.
Okay. Right. We will see, guys. We'll see, but it's going to be fun to watch. Is all. I mean, we set it up here, and we're going to be tracking it. I mean, as much as I hate the 3-point, as like I said before, at the end of the day, I really believe that the 3-point games will be the Bruins' undoing.
And now you put a target on me, so I appreciate that, especially with my Flyers book out. That's.
Well, yeah, with your Flyers book out, which I don't know why anybody would buy a Flyers book from a Rangers fan. Personally, I'll throw that out there. But I'm totally kidding. Your book's amazing. It really is. I'm just busting on. Russ is not a Rangers fan at all. Russ is a Flyers
Joe and Mike
fan.
are devout Flyers fans too. So.
No, I know. No, I'm totally kidding. Russ's book's awesome, guys. It really is awesome. You got to check it out. How do people find it, Russ? By the way.
They just go to Amazon.com, look up my name.
Look up your name. What's the title of the book again?
It's Philadelphia Flyers History. The Philadelphia Flyers Images of Sports. Arcadia is the publisher.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I saw the preview of it. I haven't gotten my book yet because I haven't seen you.
Yeah, I haven't seen you at a game where you'll get it.
I know. Well, everybody's getting healthier, so I'm going to be back at games soon, which is good.
I'm sure lots of Flyers fans will buy it now that you said they're not making the playoffs.
No. I mean, Russ. I mean, listen. It's you can easily make that argument, and this does depend on the big X factor is consistency, and that is not where the Flyers are strong. But there is. I get a sense from talking to some of the guys on the team and just being around a little bit now that there is starting to be a swell of that we can do this. That they're starting.
Okay, but wait. I got to stop you there because Derek Brassard put out a quote yesterday, and it's a big, chunky quote on how nobody thinks the Rangers are winning a cup and they're gonna win the cup, and it's that kind of thing. Every team lives in a bubble right now, and every team believes they can do it.
I know that, but there is this. Let me say the dirty secret about the Flyers locker room is that it can be a negative place. It's not the greatest locker room in the league.
It hasn't been negative for a while though. Really, since Vinny left, it hasn't been negative. Okay.
I mean, I actually think more of Vinny Lee. I think it's more about Gossibier coming in and bringing.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so that's but I don't think Vinny wasn't making. Don't think for a second Vinny was.
No, it wasn't Vinny. No.
But that sort of corresponds with Gossibier's rise to being a rookie candidate or anything like that. But
it was the situation of Vinny.
The situation of Vinny was bad, but before that though, you have some players in that Flyers locker room that are very self-defeating type personalities, and they have been for years. And this to feel optimism, about this right now. Is new. It's something kind of new. So I guess we didn't really talk much about McDavid and Eichel because I know we have to go. But that they are playing tonight. NBC is not playing. I guess you have to have the center ice package. I don't understand why they took this game off NBC, but that's neither here nor there.
Pittsburgh and Washington are playing, so they can get to show them for the 5 billionth time.
Right. So this tonight is the game at hand that Pittsburgh has. So after tonight, they will be even with the Flyers.
Want to see my idea for this game?
Okay.
Go with Pittsburgh and Washington. and instead of cutting away to the studio, when that game, you stagger the other game. You basically push back the McDavid.
Yeah, why not have a doubleheader? You could have done that.
Well, they wouldn't do a doubleheader maybe, but you could stagger the other game by pushing that one back a half hour.
Yeah.
So when the one game is in break, they could show parts of the other game. I think that would satisfy fans.
Right.
But I'm not a producer, so what do I know?
What do you know? Real quick before we go, we're going to get out of here. But definitely, we're going to talk about that game tomorrow for sure.
Yes.
Along with, I spent a lot of today in the afternoon talking to 5 different members of the Board of Governors in the NHL about our ideas on making the NHL trade deadline better. So I've got really some interesting.
My idea. Did you float my idea?
Your idea too, yeah. So we've got some really interesting variables that we'll talk about tomorrow.
Here we go again. They got the Leafs.
They still are not I mean, I understand why they're doing this, Mike.
They only have 2 games in hand.
It's still 2 games at hand.
Just pick the winner.
Pick the winner. Here we go. Ready? So today, are we going to say the Oilers or the Leafs the Oilers?
No,
I'm going to make it. I'm going to do
Go ahead.
in fairness today, we're not going to. Ready? Here we go. Winnipeg.
Winnipeg.
Man, that would change things. Second up, Montreal. Wow. And third up, the Calgary Flames. So again, Canada, you sure do draft well.
I got to tell you, if the Calgary Flames are in that third pick, they'll be getting back to being good very soon.
I know. They are not a bad team.
They're not a bad team.
Watching them last night, I realized that too. You can see they're not a bad. They just have had they've had bad goaltending and they've had bad luck.
No goalie.
Yeah.
They have bad goaltending and they have awful penalty killing.
Yeah.
I mean, terrible penalty killings and power play. But man, Gaudreau is fun to watch. I'll say that.
He is.
He is a dynamite.
And Monahan kills the Flyers. He does.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I appreciate everybody joining today's show, which will be titled "How Eck is Right and Everyone Else is Wrong." We'll be back again tomorrow with more of that same topic, and we'll discuss other things as well.
I'm going to camp out on Broad Street and wait for the parade.
Yeah, you can save me a spot, Rusty Pig. I'll bring the drink a toast.
Okay.
Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.